Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast. I am Dr. Jim Hoven, your host. And for me, it's such a great pleasure and just a blessing to be able to talk with people who are making a difference. And today, these are new friends of mine personally, but they are long-term friends of Ian, who is the head of our business culture and our marketing department here at Ramos Law. And when he told me about the opportunity we have to speak to these fine folks, I couldn't wait to have them in. And so today it is my pleasure to speak with the CEO and founder of Friends, which you'll learn more about in just a minute. Her name is Gina Coufal, and the Development Officer, who is Rabin Walters. They are my guests today. Guys, welcome, and thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, no, this is going to be good. First of all, I want to talk about Friends, and I don't want to go into depth right now, but the organization Friends, I want to set the stage of what that great company is that you guys are doing, who you're doing it for, and kind of just what the overall mission is. And I wrote it down because I liked it so much, but I want to hear it from you, and then maybe we'll go into that. And after that, we're going to talk personal stories and how you guys got here. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, so how about Gina, you give us the overarching view of Friends.
Well, the mission of Friends is that we brought a group of dedicated people together to create opportunities for intellectual and developmental disabilities, people that live with that and are challenged with intellectual and developmental disabilities in their lives, and providing opportunities for them to be independent, to contribute to their community through, we think, innovative and person-centered approaches.
That's beautiful. Rabin, what are you going to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would concur. That's pretty much verbatim what's on our website.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I want to kind of get out there to people. I was looking through your website, and I was really shocked to find that, at least according to that statistic that I read, that up to 3% of any community is made up of people that fall into this category of a developmental educational disability. Is that accurate? Depending on the size of the community, that just seems like a lot of people. If you take 100,000 people or 1 million people, that's a lot of folks.
It's a lot of people, and that is an average. So we can look at a range of 1% to 3% in any community that might be challenged with an intellectual and developmental disability or a physical disability. Mm-hmm. But we look at that in our community, and those numbers aren't far from 3%. Sometimes those numbers can be off a little because this population is very elusive. They're very difficult to identify. And if they haven't been connected with the right resources, they may not be identified as individuals that need that kind of support. And so they may not be included in those numbers.
And so if anything, it's underreported. Like I would say that number at a minimum, and probably underreported, because I know that there is, for some families, there's probably a sense of, ooh, we don't really want to label our young person or the caregiver or whatever, husband, brother. We don't want to label them as that, or we don't want people to know. There can be some ego involved. So my guess would be that's on the low side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
We know right now there's 85,000 individuals on average that have been identified with an intellectual or developmental disability in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And when we look in our particular community, it's very similar to the percentage that we see across the state. So I would say those are good numbers to follow, and I would agree that it's probably underreported. And a lot of times in the older age groups, because they may not have had that screening and that detection early on in their childhood. So
is there a spectrum? I mean, this is an obvious answer with a rhetorical question. The spectrum that would put someone considered or labeled as having a disability versus not, versus being basically completely disabled. There's some sort of a continuum. And so with what you guys do at Friends, how far along the continuum are you finding that your clients and the people that you serve, where do they live on this continuum?
I mean, I think we have a wide range of individuals on the continuum, and it's also based on state funding and who they consider individuals with IDD, and because that's how we're funded and that's how we provide those services. So we certainly don't turn anybody away, but I I think the state plays a huge part in identifying where they land and on that continuum that you speak of.
Well, and I think that's important to distinguish, because so many people, if they're looking for a resource, they're like, does the person I'm thinking of qualify? Are they in need enough, or are they just too far past where they think they can help? And if people don't know what that is, then they might not ask for help, which would be tragic. Because I know that you guys were, as we were talking before the show, you said and I think you just mentioned it too, like, we don't turn people away. And I think then, if I knew, like, man, my such and such, whatever, I think they could use this program. That becomes super, super helpful for you guys to get the word out.
And when you talk about a continuum, it can have different meanings.
Okay.
I mean, you could talk about, and maybe I'm understanding you to speak about the severity of someone's disability and the level of support that they may need.
Exactly.
We don't consider any individual with intellectual and developmental disability, or IDD as Rabin referred to it, as being in a position where there cannot be support provided. There's always support provided. So you can look at the level of disability. You can also look at the type of disability. Okay. There is a state definition of an intellectual and developmental disability, and you'll hear different labels or diagnoses, such as Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, and those things that people are familiar with. But also, when people mention continuum, sometimes they're referring specifically to autism.
Oh, okay.
Because when we look at autism and that diagnosis, we've learned over the years that it isn't just defined as one profile of a person, that we can have someone that's diagnosed with Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, and they may fall on an autism continuum, which just means that they have specific tendencies that are similar to those diagnosed with autism. So we look at a continuum of disability in terms of not only the level of support that someone needs, but also the kind of support that they need. And potentially that comes from their diagnosis or the syndrome that they may be, living with.
That makes sense.
So
yeah, that makes total sense, because, and especially again, since you guys are a state-funded program, in large part, you have to be really accurate with your terminology, right, and your descriptive factors, so that people can know who are paying for this, what it is that these people are receiving and who they are. That makes sense. So let's talk about personal stories first of all. No, let me scrap that. Instead of personal stories, I'm going to get there second. Origin story. Tell me about how Friends started.
Okay. Well, this
you
will play
started it, so you should just tell the story.
Yeah, okay. So Friends started in 1998, and it was basically bringing about 5 families together, because we were all, which I was a part of, we were all very interested in finding recreational opportunities for our children at the time, and how we could get them more involved in community activity. So we kind of got together and started brainstorming about how to reach out to other families like us, how to find out how many families in our community were kind of in the same boat that we were, looking for resources, looking to network. And we came up with Friends, which is an acronym, which stands for Fun, Recreation, Inclusive Experiences, Networking, and Discovering the Spirit.
Wow. Okay. All right. Stop 1 minute. How do you come up with that acronym? That was beautiful. Was that the 5 groups of you? Like, you guys are sitting around a dinner table saying, this is what we're trying to do. This is so cool. And that pops out?
It literally was. We sat around a conference table. We probably met, 2 or 3 times, and really needed to identify ourselves. And so we just started brainstorming with value words and coming up with, words that represented what we wanted, what we needed in our community. And we kind of caught on to the word friends, and then kind of expanded from there, because social was most important.
Yes.
Getting our kids connected with other kids.
Yes.
And so from the word friends, we sort of expanded on each letter, and what value words could we come up with that really identified what we wanted to accomplish.
You guys killed it on the acronym. So good. Now, that was in 1998. So now we're going on 25 years, coming up soon enough, right? And did you ever see or foresee where the organization was going to go when you made it for your particular families, your children? Did you see it going to be a quarter of a century later?
We certainly had hopes and intention that it would be in existence and would do more as the years went by. You never know where things will lead with a grassroots effort, but certainly are very proud of where we've come from.
That's beautiful.
And have grown substantially in terms of the people that we connect with and serve.
And of the original 5 families, how many are still involved?
All families are still involved, with
Beautiful.
the exception of one that I think moved away
Okay.
early on. And, all participate in varying degrees with the organization still. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Rabin.
Yeah.
I got to ask you. First of all, coolest name I've heard in a long time, Rabin. And I was asking for those of you listening around the world who are fans of rock and roll. I said, hey, where did Rabin come from? Is there something that's cool behind that? Does it have meaning? He goes, you ever heard of the band Yes? And I'm like, of course. Yes, of course. And so one of the band members is the last name is Rabin. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Great songs, great stuff. So you come from great stock, my friend.
Yes. Yeah. My dad was a big fan, to say the least.
And so now how do you get connected with friends? What's your origin story within the company?
It probably goes back to when I was a young kid. My mom always has stories explaining how I've always gravitated towards this population. For instance, when I was in a Barnes & Noble with my mom, she had lost me. And she came to find me reading to an individual with Down syndrome. And then fast forward, actually just about a few months ago, we have moved to a new home and she just moved. So she's bringing me 1 million boxes, of course, that she's kept our entire life. And one of those happened to have a letter that she had put in a time capsule that I made in 3rd grade. And she actually predicted I'd be working with this population to some extent. So
Wow.
those backstories, as well as volunteering in college with kind of a Best Buddies program, and then having the opportunity, similar to Ian, to work in the Friends Day program right out of college. I just fell in love, and there's amazing individuals.
No
so,
turning back from there.
Yeah.
What did you do with that letter that you found it? Because I'm telling you right now, that one needs to be framed.
Yeah, I
or
think it's still in my basement, but I probably should.
That is impressive. And mamas know best. Remember
Yeah, they
that.
do.
Always remember moms know best. So you guys are quite the dynamic duo to make this organization go. How many other people are involved in making Friends run on the day-to-day?
right now I think we're approaching 40 in terms of our staff members, and including host home providers that we contract with, and our family caregivers who become employees in order to provide support to their dependent children that live in their home.
So it's a big deal. Like, that's a pretty stout organization. And are all of those paid positions? Some of them volunteer. I know you mentioned maybe some of the hosts might be volunteers. How does that work?
All of our employees and contractors are paid.
Oh, okay.
Paid positions. Our boards are volunteer.
The boards.
And then we do have a number of volunteers, and it varies. Obviously, with the previous year we've experienced, volunteers kind of, we didn't have the same opportunities, so that number kind of dropped, and this year we're building it back. But we usually have over 100 volunteers throughout the year that help in some of our programs in some capacity.
That's amazing.
But the number I mentioned are all our paid staff and
And here's
providers.
why I asked that specifically, especially once you told me that you had that many people. Whenever you have 40 little chirping mouths to feed as a business, and I know from our company, right, there's a good amount of cost to that. And so you guys require money, not only for your programs, but for those programs to be interactive, for people to take care of them. And so is there, and if I was looking right, if I was reading the numbers right, I think you get roughly 75% of the budget is paid for through third-party carriers of some sort, Medicaid or something along those lines, for the care that you offer. But you guys have to fundraise. You have to go get money in order to keep these programs alive that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, right? Like, you're not a necessarily self-sustaining organism from some big trust or something that's just giving it. You guys have to get out and grind every single day.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Rabin, that's where you come in.
Yeah.
So explain to us a little bit about some of the ways that you find that are creative and partners that you look for to help Friends do what Friends does.
Well, we have a few larger events every year that bring in a significant amount of money that help us make up that 25%. And we also partner with amazing places like Ramos, who are one of our top golf sponsors. And then we do some smaller events to really cultivate those donors through our young professional board as well as our board.
Very cool. Very cool. And so now let's get to, let's get to the programs. As I understand it, we have 4 basic categories of programs that you guys do. So I'm going to list them out because I wrote them down. And then you tell me if I want to go through these so that people listening could understand how these folks who, as I understand, they're 18 years or older, right? Those
Correct.
are the people in your program. And there's at any given time somewhere around 145, 150 people that might be participating. Is that accurate?
Correct. Across all 4 programs.
Across all 4 programs.
Yes.
And those, so again, we'll go into these, but what I'm seeing is day habitation program, the residential support program, the supported employment program, and then social programs. So let's take those and maybe put them by priority of usage. In other words, who's using what programs, and just explain to me and to the audience how this impacts these folks and how they get to gain a sense of independence and just being part of the fabric of society.
Well, our day program, which is called Friends Unlimited, was really the first full attended program that we offered in 2005 when we became a certified state agency or a direct service provider. And that program operates Monday through Friday. The program hours are 10 to 3. And basically that program was designed to create an opportunity for individuals to attend, to learn skills for independence, to learn to navigate the community, to build social relationships. And the way it's structured is they have up to 3 or 4 classes in the morning, 3 or 4 classes in the afternoon. We do site-based classes, and then we have classes that are held out in the community. And all of those classes are designed to try to incorporate lessons that will help them become more independent at some point in their life.
Can you give me an example, Gina, of what a day in the life of would look like then? So when you say classes, would that be, for example, this is certain types of home management inside the home or outside the home, or this is how you apply for a job, or this is how you go about doing something, getting on a bus and navigating your way around? Like, what would that look like?
Well, those skills that you just mentioned are actually addressed in some of our other programs as well.
Okay, so I'm ahead of the game.
Yes. But in the day program, learning things like simple things, like how to do things for yourself, learning about health and safety, learning about how to create something. So the classes that we hold that might give you a better example of that might be doing physical fitness classes so that we can keep, health in mind, learning about exercise, learning about diets. We do a cooking class. They use their hands in our DIY class where they build things that are actually used at the facility. We have gardening classes, so they're learning how to tend to their garden. They're growing vegetables. They use them in their cooking class. What other kinds of activities?
We
Volunteer.
Okay.
Contribute to the community and other nonprofits.
Nice. And so tell me, let's go into that a little bit. I love the volunteer thing. That's like near and dear to my heart. What would be an example of how you would take the teams that you're coaching up in the program and help them help others? What's an example of that?
Well, we have been recently volunteering at Precious Child, which is our neighboring nonprofit. So we go there once a week and help them sort clothes, sort toys, and participate in their big toy drives and backpack drives to help the kids of their community.
That's super cool. Yeah. Is there any relation, and maybe this comes down into part of the supported employment, there are some employers that you see that really seem to have a heart for employing people with disabilities. And some of them are restaurants and some of them are retail stores. Do you guys work with those establishments to try to help source or prepare individuals to go into that environment and succeed?
Absolutely. When a participant comes to us and they're interested in having a job, the first thing that we do is to make sure that we get a good inventory of their skills and interests. Because then we can try to look at, okay, what do we need to work on in order to get the type of job that you're going to enjoy? They work on things like writing resumes. And then once they have a good idea of where this person might fit, they'll go out and do job development, which is really going into the community, talking with business owners, explaining who we are, that we have individuals ready to work, and helping them to see the positives that they can gain by hiring someone with an intellectual and developmental disability, and then carving out a job that might specifically allow the person to contribute in the workplace and also succeed.
Absolutely.
So
that's critical, right? Because I would imagine if
those...
they don't feel that they can succeed, that's probably hard on their emotional psyches, just like it is on any of us. If any of us feels like we're not succeeding at what we're doing, it's emotionally, it's very taxing. So setting them up for success is got to be just exactly the same.
And it's enlightening for the employers because they realize that they've got an individual that's dedicated, that's ready to work, that's proud to be working for them. And when they, are able to complete a job or do a job that they put their heart and soul into and do a good job, day after day, they're the best employees that a company can have. And so we help them see the possibility when hiring. And in addition, our job coaches go with those employees to support them through that job, and with the hope that at some point they'll fade out.
Yes.
And allow that person to be a little more independent, and in that process create those natural supports in that environment so that that person can do that job with the help of their coworkers.
Oh, that is fantastic. And Rabin, would you say that that's a bigger piece of what you guys are trying to do? Because I imagine if you're raising money on one side, like, you said, we're sponsors of the golf tournament. Do you also then look to make the connection with different types of industries or businesses to go, hey, have you ever considered having someone with an intellectual disability be part of your team and they may be able to support you? Is that kind of part of your function, or are you more off that side?
I'd say in any event when we are, front facing with different companies, we try to speak about all our programs and the benefits. So we have had people that reach out to us following an event, and then we kind of pass that along to our job developers and say, hey, this company's super interested and they'd like to employ one of our friends.
I love that. I think there's so much that we have to offer together, right? I'm just a big fan of that whole concept where if we look as the community at large, whether that's we've called the public sector, private sector, whatever you want to say, there's always a place for us to find an opportunity to work with someone at every level so that we can not only learn, but serve. And so I am really blown away by what you guys are talking about because, again, I didn't go into the depth of what the organization was. I know from Ian's connection with you guys, but seeing how you've really put these people's lives in your hands to help them grow is super cool. And if I'm understanding correctly, you don't time out of this organization, right? Like you don't grow out of it. Once you're in as long as you choose to be in.
Absolutely. And that's key as well, choice. And everything that we develop in each program is around the person-centered sort of philosophy, which is choice and control for the individual. Choosing what they want to work on, choosing classes that are going to help them achieve, their goals, live their dreams. And to segue, into our residential program, ultimately, some of our participants want to live on their own. And so having a job is critical to being able to live on their own. Having the skills that they learn within the day program is critical to potentially living on their own. And so, that program also supports them in a different way in a residential setting so that they can be independent and a part of the community in that way as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You guys have a pretty large campus, if I was remembering right, like the building or something. It's not a tiny little shop. You guys have a pretty stout site. Do you do any, as part of the residential program, will people learn by staying with you? Is it a place where overnight stuff happens, or it's all a day program?
It looks like a home on purpose. Yeah. It's their home away from home. But Gina's in the early stages of trying to push for affordable housing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, it's something that is an issue across the country, across the state, in every community. But we realize, with our residential program, we have to have options for people. Obviously, with participants who are not working, they're relying on their Social Security. They rely on Medicaid resources to pay for their support services. And so being able to afford anything on their own, much less being able to live on their own support-wise, is a whole different story. So, we want to be able to offer those options. And the end goal is to have that affordable housing opportunity that everyone wants. The problem with the solutions that we're trying to come up with as communities is that our participants are below the 30%, AMI,
Yes.
and with average median income, because they're relying on Social Security. And they're also limited in terms of how many hours they can work. Because if they work and acquire assets that go beyond $2,000 a month, they may lose their Medicaid and Social Security eligibility. So there's a lot of limitations in terms of acquiring those kinds of, or taking advantage of those kinds of opportunities. So we're hoping, starting the conversation or being a part of that conversation in our community, that we can at least help to sort of direct how we might find solutions for this particular, population in our community.
Sure. Yeah. And, if I'm just brainstorming and spitballing out what I could envision in something like that, would almost be if you could find some affordable housing where there was a building where, there was a percentage of your clients in that, with a percentage of some people with no disability, they're all working to share that, where they're working in the project of keeping the thing together, and other people are contributing so that their contribution doesn't go to, we have to create solutions for these things, because there are people that should be on their own living this life and expressing themselves at their highest level. And we should not have that be a barrier, in my mind anyway, where there's no opportunity for them.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely have a large, amount of individuals that are capable of living on their own and would just need to utilize a few supports from places like Friends to do so, whether that's getting a ride to the grocery store or helping them with their finances. We have a lot of friends that are capable, and they deserve the opportunity.
And I love how you call your tribe friends, that they're always friends forever, right? Yeah. Do you guys have one of those things at all your tables, the circle of friends? Have you seen those, a circle where they're all holding hands? I love that thing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
With respect to capacity at 145-ish, and I don't know, maybe that's not the right term. With you guys having about 145, 150 folks that are friends at this point, do you have a capacity, or can you take on as many as what the need is? Because obviously the need at even 3%, if you had 50% of the 3%, it's a lot more than 145. Where does that sit with you guys as far as how many people that you can help?
We look at services and our capacity to provide that quality and person-centered service. So with regard to specific numbers, we may only look at that in terms of our day program, where we're looking at physical capacity, how many square feet we have in a space to be able to hold the classes that we need to, and can house individuals in those classes at a time. We also look at our support staff. Our direct support professionals are key to being able to carry out, the goals of these programs. And that's a very difficult thing to keep stable. We are in the same boat as many businesses right now, and certainly other agencies that do the same thing that we do in terms of keeping a good staff base. And so a lot of times when we get a lot of referrals for people coming into programs, we look at what is our capacity to keep that ratio low.
Yes.
How do we provide that direct support in a quality manner with the staff and the human resources that we have? So that does dictate people that are enrolled in our programs to some extent. We're always hiring people, but we also find that we need to hire the people that have the heart for it, because and that it will be most meaningful for. And so every person that comes into Friends that's looking for services in any one of our programs, the first thing we do is have them to come and visit us, look and see what our programs look like now, talk about what their real needs are, evaluate whether we can meet those needs. If we can, great. If we can't, we make referrals to other organizations like ours that might be able to meet their needs in a better way. So for us, it's really about making sure that that individual gets connected with the resources that they need, even if it's not with friends. So, we can't possibly serve everyone that needs services. And we hate it when we have to put people on a waiting list to come into day program, for example, because we may not have the transportation or the staff. But we will make sure that we keep, connected with them and connect them with other resources. And sometimes it's referring them to a different program. Our social program is a drop-in program. It's not a program they have to enroll in. And so that's open to anyone in the community.
What happens in the social programs? What's an example of how that goes? Because if someone's listening and they have someone with an educational disability or whatever who might fall into this, how do they say, oh, I would want to do that? So what's the scope of programs in social?
Yeah, social program is probably one of our greatest programs because they do get that interaction and have an opportunity to meet other friends, and it's open to everybody. It happens twice a month. The second Thursday is men and women's night out, and then the fourth Thursday is our friends night out. So, of course, as you can imagine, men and women's night out is a little more catered to, say, men go to the bar, or not to drink beer, but
play pool, have fun.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go to Wonderland, play putt, watch the game.
Yeah.
And then the women would go get a pedicure, a manicure. And then this month, our friends night out, they're actually going to the Rockies game. So it really varies. We have dances that are revolved around holidays, but just lots of opportunities that they can pay a small fee, private pay, and come enjoy.
I love that.
And it's kind of an introduction to everything else that we do. So while they're waiting to maybe enroll, they can still participate and connect and meet people, within that sort of network.
Sure.
And it's accessible.
And so that takes me to this question. We've all come out of what has been for all of us a nightmare with respect to socialization, right? With COVID and working from home and can't go here and everything's closed down and all that kind of stuff. What effect did you see that have on the people that you serve emotionally? Did you see it as devastating because we know that for school kids, that suicide rates are up, right? If we see that for people that were isolated and lost their jobs, suicide rates are up. We see college dropouts are up because they weren't able to connect. What was the magnitude of effect that you guys saw on your population with all of the restrictions and our inability to be human together?
It certainly required us to look at how to provide support differently. We did move very quickly in our day program specifically as our largest program that meets together as a large group. We did create Zoom classes, a whole schedule, week-long Zoom classes. I think we had...
It's like 6 to 8 a day sometimes.
Yeah. So, and our caregivers were very grateful that we had that opportunity. There was a learning curve in terms of, working with Zoom versus being in person, but it was still a connection for our participants to talk, to connect, and to socialize in a way that might be different, but they're seeing their face, and that helped a lot. Some of the activities that were planned that were a little more involved with supplies and such, our day program staff put together supply baskets, and they would drop them off at participants' homes so that they could be a part of an activity on Zoom, but still have the supplies that they needed to participate and to create something or to do an activity or whatever the class might have been. So I felt like we did a really good job of providing those online activities and experiences that kept them connected. But we did find that with individuals who kind of are challenged with some behaviors and caregivers having to be at home a lot and not working, it had a toll on families, and not dissimilar to other families across the community.
No question.
But certainly we saw with some some escalating behaviors, and we made a point to go into those homes and make sure the staff stopped by to provide additional support, to be checking in with families to make sure that, they were getting what they needed. We did porch visits, for our host homes and some family caregivers, or just families that needed their person to connect with somebody.
That is so cool.
It had an effect, but I think we did a pretty good job to try to mitigate.
Some fun birthday trains. Some of our friends, one of their favorite activities is at the end of every month, we celebrate everybody's birthday. Of course, we couldn't do that, so we would, about 10 to 15 of us, would get in our cars and drive by their homes on a Friday afternoon. And it was amazing to see our resilience during such a terrible time. I think pandemic can either make or break you, and thanks to our community and our donors and our amazing staff, we came out even better.
I love it. And I'll bet, I would lay my house on the fact that the caregivers, once you guys could get back together, that they were beyond thankful to have that resource back for the person that they're taking care of in their life. Because I know for sure it affected me not being able to be with my people.
Yeah.
Right. And I loved being with my family. There was plenty good about it, trust me. But there was stuff that I couldn't replace. It was irreplaceable. So when I got to be able to come back and be with my team and my family here and being out in the community and seeing people walk around and look at their eyes and, it just made a difference. So I just want to tell you, if no one else has told you this, that what you've done for them to bring them back and bring a sense of normalcy to the caregivers is probably beyond description. I'm just saying.
Thank you for that. That's very gracious. And, in being able to come back, looking at vaccines and looking at how to come back safely, we were able to institute a lot of practices that allowed them to be together physically in the space. We hosted a vaccine clinic for 200 people, most of them being our family caregivers, contractors, and our participants. And right now, I think we're 95%, all of our participants are vaccinated, and 100% of our staff. So that allowed us to start to do more in-person activities earlier in the year, and then really kind of reconfigured our space so that they could be, physically there in the activity with their friends. And that was great. And we're still practicing those things.
Of course.
But it's so much better to have everyone together, and we can just see the smiles, and everybody's just so happy. We're a social group.
Yes.
It's just, they're friends with everyone, and that's the core of their day. It's just being together as friends. And so it's really important to continue to do things that keep us together like that.
Absolutely. And, speaking of friends and partnerships, I was reading something that you guys are connected. I'm going to make sure that I say this right, but you're connected with a group called Imagine, as well as the Broomfield Rotary Charitable Foundation. How do you guys connect with businesses like that to make your vision come true, to scale up or allow just the expression of what you guys are doing?
Well,
we've had a great, I'll speak to the Broomfield Rotary. We've had a great relationship with them. Ever since we moved into our new building, they helped us out with our computer lab. And of course, as times have changed, we now have switched to iPads, but they've just really invested in what we're doing and helping our friends, continue to grow and gain that independence. So they're just an amazing group of...
Big shout out to those guys.
Big shout out.
Right? Very supportive.
Exactly.
And what about Imagine? Tell me about Imagine.
So Imagine is actually a community-centered board. And so they actually are the single entry point for individuals and families to get connected with resources and services specifically for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So across the state, we have 20 of these community-centered boards, and Imagine provides that entry point for Boulder and Broomfield counties. So if a family moves into our area, that's the first place that they would go to find out about waiver resources, Medicaid, Social Security, and then once that resource becomes available to them, are assigned a case manager, and then from there have sort of a menu of providers in the community that do the direct service provision, which is what we are. We're a provider-approved service agency. So that's kind of the connection that we have. They're the case management entity for Broomfield County.
Beautiful. What's the vision going forward next 5 years, 10 years for you guys? Is it to be able to serve 500 people, or is it to go into multiple states, or is it to just do great work with about the same number you have? Where's the organization going in your guys' minds?
Well, we have
Can
our
we share
strategic
it?
planning.
Can we share it, or
No, I wanted
is it
to
top
give Rabin
secret?
a chance because his vision might be different. So this
Okay,
is
Rabin, let's hear it, man.
Well, I mean, like Gina said, we'd of course love to serve 500 individuals, and that it will always rely on staffing. But I think continuing to remain person-centered, and as cheesy as it sounds, to remain their friends, so they have that support system, and we continue to do life with them and not for them, and just help them fulfill all their lifelong goals, whether that's having a job, whether that's providing them opportunities just to see their friends a few times a month, whatever that might be. I think we just need to continue to be there for that 3% that we speak of in this Broomfield and greater community. And yeah.
Super cool. Gina?
Well, and for me, it's not just a job, it's personal. You know, I have a son who's 37 who has multiple disabilities, and he's really my inspiration for getting involved and for trying to create something that would meet his needs. And so for me, you know, and my vision for Friends, as we talked about before, it's lifelong support. This isn't get someone on their feet and we'll see you later. This is, we need to be there as a support for that family and that individual long into the future if they choose us to be there for them. And for my family, I need to know that when I'm not around to be there for my son, or his dad or his siblings are not, then there is an organization who's going to look at him, value him as an individual, and make sure that he gets the supports that he needs. And so it's important that we do everything we can to be responsible fiscally, to be, bringing in resources, expanding our programs, connecting with the community, because that's really what it is about for our participants, is being able to belong to a community, to have those natural supports, to work in the community, to be connecting and contributing. And so whatever we need to do to sustain our organization and make sure that that keeps happening for those that we serve now and those that we know will serve in the future, that's the end goal. And it's about doing the right thing and doing it in a person-centered manner, not necessarily for millions of people, but for those that we will make the most impact. That's our goal.
That's beautiful. So as we wind down, let me ask you this. Someone may have been inspired by listening to the words that you share, the vision, the way that you're impacting the world and helping these wonderful souls. So if they want to get involved, if they want to help, if they want to donate, how do they get in touch with you guys to learn more or to do something to support your vision and your mission?
Well, they can go to our website, friendsofbroomfield.org, and you'll find Gina and I's contact info. There's a donate button at the top right.
Top right.
But we'd love to have you, come by Friends. We encourage you to follow us on social media, because it's hard to put into words just exactly how great, what is going on at Friends. So we try and capture those moments through our social media. So I encourage you to follow us at Friends of Broomfield.
Yeah, and we love visitors. We welcome any visitors at our facility. A lot of folks are out working in the community or living in the community, but there's a lot at the facility, doing activities. And once you come and visit, let's just say there's nowhere else you can walk into a room and you're a rock star, because everybody's just excited to see you and meet you, and you'll leave changed, because it's not always what we think it's going to be. We all have a perception of what a disability means. And so it's just a joyful place. It's a family. And yeah, we'd love to at least just introduce you to the amazing people we work for.
I would love to be a big supporter of that with you guys. And if someone wants to volunteer, same thing, just reach out.
Yep, definitely.
And if they want to come and learn more about how they might be able to give time, energy, and talent, same thing?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Gina Rabin, this has been so fun. I can't believe 45 minutes gone. Went so quick.
Wow.
You guys did a great job. Thank you for sharing your vision and your passion for what you do with these folks, with me today, and with our listening audience. I wish you nothing but the best, continued success, and just know that you always have a friend in us here at Ramos Law.
Friend in me.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate you giving us the time to share our story too.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Have a
for
great day,
having
you
us.
guys.
Yeah,
Thank
you as well.
you.